The scorching Arizona sun cast its golden rays across the quiet residential streets of Scottsdale. In our front yard, James, my husband, was deeply engrossed in his weekend gardening ritual. Beside him, Laura's children, Sophia and Noah, splashed and played with water, their laughter echoing through the warm afternoon air. James, dressed in a crisp white polo shirt, maintained his reputation as the neighborhood's well-regarded gentleman. His sturdy build and sun-kissed face, tanned from weekend golf outings, always bore a gentle smile. Emily, another excellent week. The Paradise Valley property was particularly impressive, I read the message from my boss on my smartphone. After a decade as a real estate agent, I had finally achieved top-tier performance at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. With my brown hair styled professionally and refined yet understated attire, I had earned the trust of wealthy clients. My efforts were recognized with steady salary increases, and combined with James's income from Sun Construction, we enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. On weekend afternoons, we would typically enjoy shopping at Kierland Commons before having brunch at Financial Square. In the back seat of my Lexus RX, Sophia and Noah chatted happily together. 8-year-old Sophia was a responsible girl who took good care of her younger brother. 6-year-old Noah, with his endearing personality, made friends easily with anyone. "Thank you again for today," Laura approached me while I was cleaning up after lunch in the kitchen. She looked tired. My sister, who usually suited flashy clothes and makeup, had an air of uncertainty about her since her divorce 2 years ago. It had become our custom to invite her and the children for weekend meals. James and I supported her as her part-time beautician income at Great Clips was barely enough, with monthly earnings of around $2,000. Raising children would be challenging. "Don't worry about it." Seeing Sophia and Noah smile is my joy, I said, though something had been bothering me lately. James's behavior had somehow changed. While business trips had always been frequent due to his position as a construction company director, they had increased recently. He was coming home later, and something felt off about his dashing figure leaving for work in his BMW 5 Series. His weekend golf outings had increased, and he had become inseparable from his cell phone, occasionally absorbed in messaging someone. Could this be the 10-year marriage crisis? Such thoughts would cross my mind, but I tried to shake them off as I went about my days. "Emily, I'll be late tonight. Overtime again. It's been happening a lot lately. We're in the final stages of a big project and need to prepare for next month's presentation," James said that morning as he left for work. I noticed his more carefully styled hair and new tie but didn't probe further. I believed that trust was the foundation of our long marriage. Our joint savings of $150,000 was a testament to the trust we had built together. Our home was in a quiet residential area near Paradise Valley. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house worth about $500,000, with a well-maintained garden where neighborhood ladies would gather for gardening club on holidays. It was our little piece of happiness that we had built together over 10 years. On weekends, we enjoyed dinners at the Cheesecake Factory and often dined with couple friends at Houston's. In the entryway, a photo frame held our wedding picture alongside smiling photos of Sophia and Noah. Though we had no children of our own, these two were like my own. That's why I had continued supporting them as much as possible after my sister's divorce. The weekly meals and help with their school expenses had become a natural part of our routine. As I was reviewing listings for luxury properties, my phone suddenly rang. A call from Mayo Clinic Hospital. In that moment, an ominous feeling ran down my spine. "Mrs. Wilson, your husband has been in a car accident," the nurse's calm voice reached my ears. "The injuries weren't serious," she said, "but he needed to be hospitalized for tests." The clock showed 3 p.m. "I'll be right there," I said as I hung up, letting out a deep sigh. I would need to cancel my property viewing appointments. After explaining the situation to my secretary, Olivia, I immediately started my Lexus. The Phoenix cityscape flowed past my window. Recent memories of my husband's behavior flashed through my mind like a slideshow: late returns home, increased business trips, always on his phone, and this morning's careful grooming. The navigation system's voice brought my thoughts back to reality. The journey to the hospital felt longer than usual. After parking, the reception directed me to room 308. My footsteps echoed strangely in the third-floor hallway. I paused for a moment in front of room 308, noticing my hand trembling slightly as I reached to knock. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. In the white hospital room, my husband was surprisingly relaxed on the bed. The injuries were apparently just bruises and a mild sprain. And for some reason, my sister Laura was there too. She wore an unusually pale expression, quite different from her typically flashy appearance. "Emily," my sister called my name in a trembling voice, but her words trailed off. A heavy atmosphere filled the hospital room. An awkward silence spread between the three of us. Then, my husband spoke unexpected words. "You found out about the affair, haven't you? Well, if it's out in the open, there's nothing to be done. Take care of me, James said this with a somewhat resigned smile. It took a few seconds to comprehend the meaning of his words. Please look after me and the children too, Laura added, her voice trembling. Her poor health, hospital tests, and my husband's accident, all the dots connected into a single line. I quietly looked at their faces, the faces of my husband and sister whom I had once trusted. I saw no genuine remorse for their actions. Instead, what showed was calculating expectation. 10 years of married life built on trust, the bonds shared between sisters, it felt like they were all crumbling before my eyes with an audible crash. The afternoon sun streamed through the hospital room window where flowers were displayed. The curtain swayed slightly in the breeze. The hospital announcement about visiting hours seemed to be ringing somewhere far away. I slowly adjusted my bag. I felt no need to respond to their words. I simply opened the door quietly and headed for the hallway. I didn't look back. I needed time to think calmly. While stepping into the elevator, I took out my smartphone. The first priority was gathering evidence, then preparing for legal action. I had learned from my real estate work the importance of acting strategically rather than emotionally. By the time I left the hospital, the sun was beginning to set. The Phoenix sky was painted in the deep red unique to dusk. As I started my Lexus's engine, I began organizing my next steps. The coming weeks would likely be the most important period of my life. That premonition would prove accurate, but at this point, I didn't yet know the true reason for my sister's poor health nor the fate that awaited them both. The only thing certain was that our peaceful daily life would never return. The Phoenix night skyline was visible from my living room window. The clock showed 11 p.m. I quietly but meticulously reviewed the bank transaction history on my computer screen. The joint account with James, the $150,000 in savings built over 10 years of marriage, I recorded each movement in a spreadsheet. An unbelievable series of transactions appeared: luxury restaurants, jewelry shops, and hotels, all places never visited during our outings together. The dates were concentrated in the past 6 months. The total came to about $20,000. My experience as a real estate agent had made me skilled at checking detailed figures. The next morning, I secured an appointment with Olivia Johnson, a female divorce attorney. My experience at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services had provided me with connections to excellent lawyers. Mrs. Wilson, I understand the situation, Johnson said in her office. I calmly explained the circumstances. She began a detailed explanation of Arizona's laws regarding infidelity. In Arizona, evidence of infidelity is important. However, we should avoid emotional actions, she advised. I nodded quietly. I had already formulated an action plan: first, transferring funds from the joint account, opening a new account, and moving $100,000. The lawyer assured me this was within legal bounds. Let's also change the credit card limits, she suggested. Next, I went to the home office. Checking my husband's documents was heart-wrenching but necessary. There, I found a stack of hotel receipts and backup data from my husband's computer. The password was our wedding anniversary date, an ironic choice. Email histories were revealed one after another: exchanges with my sister, meeting arrangements, expressions of love. Each character on the screen shattered 10 years of trust. I sighed deeply while saving screenshots. More than enough evidence had been gathered. Next was building economic defenses. Your new account at Wells Fargo has been opened, the banker's voice came through the phone. Credit card limit changes were also complete. Expense record organization was finished. With this, immediate financial defenses were in place. However, the most difficult challenges lay ahead: dealing with my sister and Sophia and Noah. The children were completely innocent in this situation. Rather, they might be the greatest victims. Let's reduce the support payments gradually, I suggested in my second meeting with Attorney Johnson. We discussed how to handle my sister's family. We planned to gradually reduce the monthly support over 3 months. Sudden changes would have too great an impact on the children, I explained. I should contact our parents soon. Just as I reached for my smartphone, an email notification arrived. A PDF bill from Mayo Clinic Hospital, with an attached diagnosis report issued in my sister's name. I was speechless at the diagnosis results written there: 2 months pregnant. The room's air seemed to freeze instantly. The characters on the screen blurred before my eyes. My sister's poor health, hospital tests, and her strange behavior on the day of the accident, everything connected with cruel clarity. This, too, as evidence. With trembling hands, I pressed the printer button. The diagnosis copy quietly ejected. That night, I cried for the first time, but it would be the last tears. Tomorrow would begin the fight for a new life, without being swept away by emotions, but planning and acting with certainty. Looking up at the family photo hanging in the study, I steeled my resolve. For Sophia and Noah's smiles, and most of all, for my own life, this was no time for weakness. The real battle was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up early and applied my makeup more carefully than usual. A black suit with an understated pearl necklace, the calm, composed expression I had cultivated in sales. The coming weeks would be the most important period of my life. Then, shall we move to the next phase? I asked in my third meeting with Attorney Johnson. I quietly nodded. Bright light streamed through the office window overlooking Phoenix. An envelope arrived at Sun Construction's HR department. There was no sender name, but its contents would create significant ripples in the company. As evidence of inappropriate relationships, the envelope contained hotel receipts from the past 6 months, company credit card usage history, and email screenshots that would serve as decisive evidence. Personal use of expenses, exploiting his position as director, clear violations of company ethics regulations. That afternoon, James received an emergency summons, an inquiry from HR. Though he was given a chance to explain, the evidence was too clear. Immediate suspension and salary hold pending investigation. However, this was just the beginning. Around the same time, I was meeting with Attorney Johnson in my living room. Preparations for forced mediation were steadily progressing. Property division calculations, grounds for compensation, everything was prepared in legally perfect form. Mrs. Wilson, regarding the proposed settlement amount, the lawyer pointed to the document showing the figure of $50,000. This amount considered James's misappropriated funds and future living compensation. And this amount carried another meaning. That evening, my parents visited. Dad, Mom, I greeted them as they were shown into the living room. Their expressions were hard, as they seemed to have already grasped the situation, my sister's pregnancy, my husband's betrayal. No explanation was needed. Our way of raising? Mother's voice trembled. Father sat silently, but his posture revealed deep anger. My sister had been avoiding contact, fearing our parents' fury. Let's have a family meeting, I suggested. My parents quietly nodded. The location would be their home, time weekend afternoon. All parties would gather to discuss the future. I judged this to be the best approach. That weekend, a heavy atmosphere hung over the living room of my parents' home as the family meeting began. James was losing his position at the company. My sister faced the new reality of pregnancy. My parents carried deep sadness over the family's breakdown. First, let me explain about the property division. Attorney Johnson began her explanation matter-of-factly. $50,000 settlement, joint property division proposal, and the sale of the Paradise Valley area house, everything was prepared in legally appropriate form. That amount is? James tried to object, but the lawyer continued calmly, if you don't accept this proposal, the evidence of company fund misappropriation will be investigated more thoroughly. His expression froze at those words. Personal use of expenses could become more than just an ethical violation. Please think about the children, I said, taking out photos of Sophia and Noah. Educational trust fund establishment proposal, monthly visitation schedule, arrangements for psychological counseling for the children, all proposals were made with their future in mind. My sister squeezed out words through tears. A new life lay ahead of her, life as a single mother, meeting a new life. I will continue supporting their education. My sister raised her face at my words. Complete relationship restoration was still far off, but I wanted to do what I could for the children's future. That was my decision. The family meeting lasted 5 hours. During that time, various emotions intersected, anger, sadness, regret, and a slight hope. Finally, agreement was reached on conditions including the $50,000 settlement payment, house sale and property division, continued education support for the children with monthly visitation rights, and participation in counseling. The Paradise Valley area house would be put up for sale the following week. Purchase of a new residence was already in the plans. All preparations for a new life. With this, all procedures are complete, Attorney Johnson's words echoed in the evening living room of my parents' home. Outside the window, Phoenix shone as usual. My parents accepted this resolution with deep sighs. James silently signed the documents. My sister was still crying. Watching this scene, I quietly thought, this was the real end and simultaneously a new beginning. The next day, I stood in front of Mayo Clinic Hospital. It was the children's regular checkup day. Sophia and Noah greeted me with their usual bright smiles. Aunt Emily, their innocent voices struck my heart strongly. For these children's future, and for my own new life, I must continue to be strong. The Phoenix sky was turning a deep blue, seeming to herald the beginning of a new chapter. The spring sunshine in Phoenix gently illuminated the window of my new office. The sign, Emily Wilson Real Estate, gleamed in the morning sun. Half a year since opening, initial anxieties had been dispelled by steady achievements. President Wilson, here are the documents for the new case. My secretary Jane brought in the latest property documents, a luxury property in Paradise Valley, the area where my former house was. 1 year since then, life had changed greatly. Emily, remember our lunch appointment? A message arrived from Michael on my smartphone. We had met through real estate industry dealings. He was a lawyer who had lost his wife to illness and raised his daughter. Our relationship, which began as pure friendship, was gradually changing into something special. Of course, Houston's, right? I smiled while sending my reply. Conversations with him naturally warmed my heart, but still, careful, that was one thing I learned this past year. The afternoon was my appointed time with Sophia and Noah, meeting at Mayo Clinic Hospital's pediatric department at 3 o'clock when school ends. Accompanying their regular checkups had become my important daily routine. Aunt Emily, my heart warmed at the sight of the two running into the waiting room. Sophia's responsible nature hadn't changed, but she showed a slightly more mature expression than before. Noah's friendly smile remained unchanged. I got a perfect score on my math test today. I was chosen for the soccer team. The children's bright voices filled the hospital waiting room with warm air. The checkup results were good. The psychological counseling doctor also reported that both children were adapting well. Mom's baby is going to be born soon, Sophia told me with a somewhat complex expression. 2 weeks until Laura's due date. Since that day, my relationship with my sister had changed greatly. Though not completely reconciled, we've gradually become able to talk. She has also become more serious about her work as a beautician. Her evaluation at Great Clips has improved, along with her salary. Still, I continue to support the children's educational expenses. When the baby comes, don't forget about us. Noah's anxious voice made me smile gently. Don't worry, you're my precious family. After the checkup, I took the children to the Cheesecake Factory. This, too, had become a monthly ritual. While eating desserts, we talked about school events and future dreams. Sophia wants to become a veterinarian, and Noah aims to be a soccer player. How's Uncle James? Noah's sudden question caught me off guard for a moment. Meetings with my ex-husband continue once a month as agreed. Recently, he seems to be changing little by little. Though he lost his position at Sun Construction, I heard he's working more humbly at a new company. Yes, he's doing well. You'll see him again soon. After dropping the children off at home, I returned to my new residence. It's been about 10 months since I moved from Paradise Valley to a new area in Scottsdale. The 3-bed house is smaller than the previous one, but it's just the right size for my new life. Welcome home, Miss Max. The beloved dog sent from my parents' home greeted me with a wagging tail. My parents have continuously supported me throughout this past year. Weekend brunches remain our unwavering tradition. New photographs adorned the shelves in the living room, pictures of smiling children, the moment of cutting the ribbon at the new office, and family photos at my parents' home. These are testaments to my new life. Entering my study, I opened my laptop. While preparing for tomorrow's property viewings, I quietly reflected, what I lost this year, and what I gained. I lost a 10-year marriage, a trusted husband, and a casual relationship with my sister. However, what I gained is also significant: confidence as a business owner, true independence, and above all, my own strength. My life is my own. Looking out the window, Phoenix is bathed in twilight. The spring breeze gently rustles the fresh green trees. Tomorrow, a new day begins. My smartphone lights up, a message from Michael. Got the dinner reservation for tomorrow. We should be able to talk at length. I smile as I send my reply. There's no need to rush. Everything at my own pace, and I will absolutely protect the future of these innocent children. I quietly engrave these words in my heart. This is the guiding principle of my new life and my eternal promise. In the Phoenix night sky, the full moon shone gently.